Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pickdawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 4 college basketball games for Sunday, November 16th, 2025. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, my daily college bank shop best bet, or my NFL plays for Sunday, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday in college basketball. First up, we've got Notre Dame and Ohio State. This one is going to be a 12:30 Eastern start time. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Now, two teams that have a lot of experience. They returned a lot of production from last year's team, a lot of D1 experience. Two teams that have played very soft schedules so far, each 3 games at home against very inferior opponents. And I think that it being the first true road test of the season for Notre Dame, team has had some issues taking care of the basketball, a team that may not be as strong as Ohio State offensively. I do worry about the Irish in a matchup like this. Ohio State has been shooting lights out. They're 4th in the nation in effective field goal percentage, number 1 in 2-point field goal percentage, top 15 adjusted offensive efficiency. And while the defense has had some issues, and we saw that in the IU-Indy game, we saw that final score, 118-102, alarm bells going off, but now we see that IU-Indy is going to be that type of team throughout the season where they're going to give up 100-plus points. They're going to score a lot of points because they're fast-paced. They're number 1 in the country in adjusted tempo. They've got a good offense. They shoot the ball well, and they've got no defense. They're going to give up a ton of points. So that final score, not really as concerning as it once was, just a couple weeks ago. And I think that Ohio State, like I said, just too much offensively. If this was at a neutral site, I think it'd be a more competitive game, but a true home game for Ohio State, I've got to roll with the Buckeyes and lay the points. Next up, we've got Stetson and Western Carolina. This one is going to be 1 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN Plus, a part of the ASUN and SoCon Challenge. Now, I talked about Stetson, their last game against Miami. We took Miami in that one. We laid the points, and it was pretty close in the first half, but Miami was just too much by the end of that game, 102-61, winning and covering the number. And now it's 0-2, both straight up and against the spread in D1 matchups for Stetson. They did win the subdivision game over Fort Lauderdale, but it's not been a great start to the season for Stetson. I mentioned I don't think it was going to be a good season in general for the Hatters, even with head coach Donnie Jones being one of the better coaches in the ASUN. This team just right now struggling mightily on the glass. They're one of the weaker rebounding teams in the country. That bodes well for Western Carolina because while the Catamounts have struggled offensively, scoring 63 and 54 in their first 2 D1 matchups, they have been a good rebounding team. They're top 200 in both offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. So now you're facing, you're not facing Cincinnati or Duke like you did in the first 2 matchups. You're facing a much weaker Stetson defense and a team that's really struggling on the glass. I think Western Carolina's offense, goes off in this matchup. I think they score in the 80s, maybe even the 90s. I think it's going to be enough for a win and a cover. So I'm going to lay the points here, Western Carolina. Next up, it's Houston and Auburn. This one is going to be 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN. Now, overall, this is not my favorite college basketball card for Sunday. I wanted to talk about this game because, this one and the next one are the 2 biggest games by far, entertainment-wise. I know a lot of people are going to be, it's NFL Sunday, so a lot of eyes will be on the NFL, but for the college basketball card, these will be the 2 most watched games. So I definitely wanted to talk about them on the Bank Shop Breakdown. And, this is a matchup between 2 great programs, obviously 2 teams that made it deep last season in the NCAA tournament. A little bit of a new look for Auburn with Stephen Pearl as the head coach, as Bruce Pearl retired. And, it's not the most experienced roster. It's certainly a talented roster, but I haven't been in love with the start of the season for Auburn. We know the first game of the year, an overtime win over Bethune-Cookman. We took Bethune-Cookman. We knew they were definitely a lot more talented SWAC team than most SWAC teams have been. But it was still a game without 20-point-per-game scorer Dr. Bradley for Bethune-Cookman, and they were still able to force overtime in a 95-90 win for Auburn. They were lucky to escape with that win, while Houston has played a tougher schedule. They've really looked strong defensively, as we're used to seeing. They're number 1 right now in adjusted defensive efficiency, giving up 57, 48, and 45 in those first 3 games. So in a neutral site or semi-road game for Houston, I love backing strong defensive teams, and that's exactly what we get the Cougars. I think their offense will find its way. They've obviously not been scoring a ton of points in the first few matchups, but here against a more fast-paced offense for Auburn, Houston should be able to get some more possessions in this one. I think their offense figures it out, and I think they win this game, cover the number in the end. So I'm going to roll with Houston in this one. And the final game we're to talk about for the Sunday card in college basketball, it's Miami and Florida. This one is the Geico-Jacksonville Hoops Showdown. It's going to be a neutral site game in Jacksonville, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN, and it should be a great matchup. Florida is 2-1 straight up, but 0-3 against the spread to start their season, losing outright to Arizona, not covering the closing number against North Florida, and then, of course, as a 17, 18-point favorite against the Seminoles, their rivals, only won that game by 2 points, 78-76 last time out. It's the opposite for Miami. They're 3-0 straight up. They're 3-0 against the number. Excuse me, they did lose their first game against Jacksonville against the spread, so they are 2-1 against the number and 3-0 straight up, and blowout wins in their last 2 games. Bethune-Cookman 101-61, 102-61 over Stetson. It's basically identical scores. And I've been big on this Miami team going into the year. This is not the Miami team from last year, which was an embarrassment. One of the worst teams in power basketball, certainly in the ACC, winless for a long time in ACC play. I think this is a new head coach, a new system, basically an entire new roster, and a really, really talented team that I think is going to give Florida a run for its money. This is still a lot of points. Even though Florida is 0-3 against the number and Miami's had a good start to the season, there's still enough value, in my opinion, and enough line value, in my opinion, to take Miami in this game. I think that Florida is still one of the best teams in the country, but I think because of that national championship and that rating next to them, they are a little bit overvalued. We backed the Gators all the time last year. We took them to win the national championship, so it's not that I have anything against Florida, even though we've been, we bet against them against Florida State and Arizona. I just think that this is a spot where Miami is the more valuable side. I'm going to roll the Canes plus the points. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com, and there is a link in the description. As always, Romanelli, good luck.